Welcome back to another advanced Python tutorial. So if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment. So without further words, let's get started. In this video, we're going to talk about tuples. Tuples are collection data types that are ordered, immutable, and allows duplicate of elements. A tuple is just similar to a list. The difference is that a tuple cannot be changed once it is created. So let's have a closer look on the tuples and what we can do with them. First of all, a tuple is created by using parentheses. So for example, we may write my tuple equals to, let's say we have Max, then we have 8, and then we have Boston. We may print our tuple and then see we have our tuple here, and it's not necessary to have the parentheses, so you can just remove the parentheses. And if we save this and printing it, we have the same tuple. Just remember, when you write, you need to separate them with a comma. Okay, one special thing you can do to create a tuple, just let's say we have a tuple. Let's delete this. If you create it like this, it won't be recognized as a tuple. So to overcome this, even if it's a single element within your tuple, you need to put a comma. So if you put a comma like this, and if you print it here, you still have a tuple. So if you don't put a comma here, it's going to be treated like a string, like that. Okay, so now you can also use the built-in tuple function to create a tuple from the iterable. For example, you can create, for example, let's say this is our tuple. We can create another tuple here. Let's say my tuple. Let's say equal to tuple. And then let's put iterable here, like a list. Then we can decide to put Max. And then we can 28. And then we can put Boston. So if we go ahead and print, let's print my tuple and see we have the same result. Yes. Okay, that's another way of creating a tuple. Now, if you want to access elements, you can do by referring to the index of the element. So for example, if we have our tuple here, now let's say this is our tuple, and we want to access the elements inside the tuple, we can do this by referring the index. So we can say an item is equal to, say, my tuple, then at index 0, and let's print the item. So if we print the item here, we have Max. You see, we can also test for index 1, which gives 28, yeah, and we can also test for index 2, save, which it also gives us Boston. Okay, now we can also specify a negative index, like using the -1. So -1 or -2, this gives the last element of the tuple. For example, if we do this, if we can add here -1 and print it, so you're going to have Boston. And if we add -2 here and print it, okay, we are going to have 28. Now, what happens if we want to change the elements inside our tuple? For example, my tuple, let's say at index 0, and let us assign this to Tony, for example, and let's print our tuple and print my tuple. What happens if we do this? So we get an error that says that type error, tuple object does not support item assignment. So we get this error because, as we said, tuples are immutable, so you can change the elements inside the tuple. We can also easily iterate through our tuple. For example, for I in my tuple, okay, now let's print my tuple. Go ahead and save this. So we got our tuple. I mean, we need to print I here. So good. Now, yes, we have iterated through our tuple. Now we can also check if the element is inside our tuple. Let's say Max is, say, in my tuple, then we print yes. We can print yes, say print yes, or we can say yes, we print no. Let's go ahead and save this. So we should see yes. Of course, we see yes because Max is inside our tuple. You can go ahead and test for all of these. Also, let's talk about some other useful methods you can do with tuples. For example, let's create a tuple with some letters. Let's comment this for letter use. For example, let's say my tuple and say equals to A, then P, and then P again, and then it says L, and say A. If we want to get the length of the tuple, we can just print then the length. So we print this, we can have 5. Of course, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if you want to count the elements in the tuple, we just use the count method. You can just print my tuple, then dot count. See, we have the count here, then we count how many, for example, let's say A's do we have inside this tuple. Let's go ahead and save this and try to run it here. We see that we have 1 A, and let's say how many P's do we have here. Save this. See, we have 2. Now we can also find the index of the specific element. For example, index of P. So we are looking for a specific index. So here we expect that. Let's first save and print it here. See, we have 1. That means this is 0 and this index 1. So it starts with the P which is nearest from 0. We can also convert a tuple to a list and vice versa using the tuple function and a list function. For example, we have this tuple. We can just say that we can say my list. So we are converting a tuple into a list. Then we say it's a list. Then we put my tuple. Now, if we go ahead and print my list, so definitely we're going to have a list here. So we are going to have a list here. Also, we can try to convert our tuple to a list. For example, my tuple to, we can say, equals to list. Then we put my list. Now if we go ahead and print our my tuple 2, go ahead and save this. We need to convert this into a tuple. So remember, we are converting this into a tuple. If we print this, we have a list here and we have our tuple here. Now let's talk about slicing a tuple. For example, let's create a tuple with numbers in it. A tuple like we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, we have 8, we have 9, and we have 10. See, we can slice our list. For example, we can say B equals to Then let's slice it from, we separate by colon to 5, and then let's go ahead and print B. Now we have 3, 4 and 5, so it starts from 2, which is 0, 1, then 2, 3, this is 4, this is 5, but excludes 5. Now we can say we don't want to specify the starting index, so we can start here by just leaving it. So if we print here, we are going to get also, it starts from 1, but we can also opt to use a step index. For example, we can say let's start from the beginning and ends and goes to the end, but it should go by 1 step. For example, if we go and save this, we will have all the tuple from 1 to 10. But what if we go here and test go by 2 steps? Let's go and save this. If we save this, we are going to have 1, 3, so it skips by 2 steps. Now you can also use a negative index. Just remember, this is a very nice trick to reverse your tuple. For example, -1 here, if you print, so we reverse our tuple. So a very nice trick to reverse our tuple. Now let's talk about unpacking a tuple. First, let's write our first tuple, which contains the max. Let's comment this now. How can we unpack this tuple? For example, we can say name, then age, then city. Then we can assign this to my tuple, and then we can go ahead and print. Let's print name, then let's print age, and then let us print city. Let's go ahead and save this. So if we print here, we are going to have max, age and Boston. So this is how you can unpack a tuple easily. Now just make sure that the number of elements you specify here and the number of elements you specify here should be the same. I mean, must match, otherwise you're going to get an error. But what we can do, we can pack multiple elements with the star. So just for testing purposes, now we have this tuple here, and we can say that, for example, we can say I1 slash I, you can say I2 and I3. We can assign this to my tuple. But if you want to unpack multiple elements, for example, we can use the star sign. So if we put here a star, so it means all from element 2, index 2. Now if we want to print, let's say, for example, let's print I1, and let us print I3, and let us print, this is let's print I2. So let's go ahead and save this. Now if we print here, we are going to have 0, we're going to have 4, and the other is a list. So if we unpack using the star, we create a list. So I1 is this 0, I3 is this, it is 4, and then I2, which is a star, took from here to here. Okay, good. So this is all you can do with tuples. So Thank you so much for watching. See you on another topic.